We've got a great guest for you today, especially for you Redskins fans out there. The voice of the Washington Redskins, Larry Michael. We had so much fun. We went out to Redskins Park and got to spend about 30 to 40 minutes with him and just pick his brain a little bit. Who's his favorite Redskin of all time? What does he think of the coaching staff? What players should we be on the lookout for? Give it a look. Thanks for watching. Welcome to People, Passion, Power. Our guest today needs no introduction, especially if you're a fan of this team right here. Mr. Larry Michael, thank you for coming on the show. It's a pleasure, sir.
We have some mutual friends I know, the Kingsburys, great guys, big contributors to Leukemia Lymphoma Society. They do a lot for a lot of kids in need, so any friend of theirs is a friend of mine.
Oh, you're a kind gentleman. I appreciate it. So on the show, we like to get to know you a little bit. Most of the time it's you doing the interviews. You with the players, but we want to actually focus on you today. Local guy, University of Maryland, host of 2 shows, The Voice we hear on Sunday. Holy cow, you do a lot.
Well, you know, growing up in Silver Spring, Maryland, I grew up in a place called Four Corners, which is a little community which is part of Silver Spring, Maryland, right there at University Boulevard and Colesville Road. And going to the University of Maryland, when I went there, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life or my career. But I found broadcasting. A friend of mine had suggested I go visit the campus radio station, WMUC, and that is where I got my start. That's where I fell in love with the business. I was going to be a lawyer when I went to college originally, and glad that didn't work out that way because I'm very happy with what I've done in my career. And it's been a lot of great memories, a lot of great events, and nothing better than being with the Redskins.
I'm going to put you on the spot, and you don't have to answer. Favorite Redskin of all time?
Sonny Jurgensen.
Easy. I thought you were going to say
Sonny Jurgensen, but Larry Brown is 1B.
Okay.
1A, 1B, and these are guys, you know, obviously I've gotten to know. One of the great joys of doing this job is that Larry Brown knows who I am. I mean, you come and say, hi, Larry. I was like, all right, Larry Brown knows who I am. It's incredible because you grew up looking at these guys, watching these guys, idolizing these guys. Those are my 2 favorites, and for the reason I think, you know, they're more senior guys. A lot of the guys since I've been here, I've become very close friends with, a lot of guys. And that's by virtue of coming to work here every day. You see them every day, you become friends, and it's a little bit different. Don't see Larry Brown every day, and didn't see Sonny every day, but sure was big fans of theirs growing up. And then again, for them to actually know who I am is a big thrill, and then to have a close relationship with them makes them even bigger heroes for me.
Anybody come to mind, so I'm sure people have surprised you. Somebody in your era, since you've been with the Redskins, you were like, wow, I can't believe that player made it that far.
Well, I can tell you right now, one guy that shocked me last year, and it was immediate, and it was in April of 2019. It was a couple days after the draft, and the draft picks had been brought to Redskins Park, and they were going through whatever they needed to go through to get assimilated with the team. And I sat in this very studio, and I interviewed Terry McLaurin for the first time. And I just fell out of my chair how impressive this individual was. He left here, and I told Charlie, the producer, that's one of the top 5 interviews I've ever done with a Redskin. And this is his first interview ever as a Redskin, a rookie 3rd-round draft pick. This is the most impressive young man I've ever met.
Nice.
Now, then he went on and had a great season, and he's super smart, and he's going to be one of the core members of this team. But there are so many like this. You know, I can remember this building didn't used to be built the same way. There used to be a balcony around back. I remember my first year here. They brought a guy in who was going to sign a free agent contract, and I took him around back on the balcony, and we had the field in the background. I had a great conversation with him. I said, man, this guy is going to have his name was Santana Moss. I was just flabbergasted how nice a guy he was, how well-spoken he was. I knew of his physical talent. And now to have him on board, very, very impressive guy. Very impressive guy. So, I mean, I could go on and on with guys like that, you know. But Joe Gibbs here, first go around with Joe Gibbs. And I've gotten to be, when I took this job, the owner of the football team, Dan Snyder, said that I would have an obligation. I would have to get involved in the community. And, you know, because it's a big platform. And I listened to him, and I got into a lot of many, many different charities, and I've kind of gravitated to a couple over the last few years of my life. One is Leukemia Lymphoma Society, which I have a personal connection to because my niece overcame that horrible disease. So I put a lot of time and effort into that charity. Whatever they need, whenever they need me, I'm there for them. And the other is to be on the board of trustees for a place called Youth for Tomorrow, which is the Joe Gibbs Youth Home in Bristow, Virginia, which was built in the 80s by Coach Gibbs and a couple of other investors. And at that point, it had 8 boys who were, I guess you could say, juvenile delinquents of some kind. They had all kinds of issues. And that has grown to the extent that thousands of children are impacted each year by Youth for Tomorrow. They have satellite campuses. They've got the big campus in Bristow. The campus there has grown incredibly large, and we're really helping kids there who don't have the benefit of any kind of edge. These are forgotten kids who, for whatever variety of reasons, whether issues in their home, issues at school, they are the forgotten group, and they come to Youth for Tomorrow and they leave full-grown men and women. So there's a lot of gratification, I guess you could say, by being involved with that, and that's something that I will continue to do so for as long as I'm on this earth, is try to help those kids and maybe find some new areas to contribute as well. But that's something. When Joe Gibbs came here, that first year when he came here, and he drafted Sean Taylor, and there was a lot of buzz about the football team. There were some incredible wins. The Monday Night Miracle in Dallas was an incredible win, and then of course the tragedy of Sean being killed, which we'll never forget. That really has left a scar on anybody that was here then. That scar still remains. And just the evolution of the franchise and where we're at today. Ron Rivera coming in this year, the optimism and the leadership I think he's shown in his first month on the job, a little more than a month. Very strong leadership, and I think it's easy to follow a leader like him, and the players are going to find it. It's going to be a challenge, I think, and I think they're going to be challenged. They're going to be held accountable, just like the coaching staff holds themselves accountable. Just love the way Ron Rivera has approached this job stepping in. So every year is a new year, and there's a reason to be excited every day. Different guys. I mean, Jack Del Rio, for instance, was a baseball player in college. He chose football over baseball, and he had a couple famous teammates in baseball, Mark McGuire and Randy Johnson, the big unit. A lot of people didn't know that, but by virtue of my conversation with Jack, found that it's pretty cool.
That's
pretty cool. That's part of his, and that's how you build relationships. And to be able to convey those relationships during a broadcast, to me, very interesting for the listener.
Yep, right away it hits. So speaking of people, who are some of the most interesting, we'll start with players first, that you've come across, maybe the most interesting players that you respected, or you get an inside access to these athletes like no one else?
Wow.
Who comes to mind?
The list's a mile long. Let's look at Redskins.
Yep.
And I go back to when I first started here. A guy by the name of Chris Samuels, to me, is the epitome of a pro football player. He played hard. He played great. He was a Pro Bowler. He loved to have fun. Got to be very close friends with him over the course of the years. CP as well, same kind of guy. Very generous guy with his time. I mean, there's so many guys. When I got the play-by-play job, of course, I was replacing Frank Herzog, who's a legendary broadcaster, and he had been with Sonny and Sam for many, many years, through the Super Bowl years. And so Sonny had told me when I first came on board, he says, look, you're welcome to join us for lunch, dinner, whenever we're anywhere. You're welcome. I made a vow to myself that I would not skip a single breakfast, lunch, or dinner with Sonny and Sam. And so I can't tell you, I mean, you're talking about in the hundreds probably of meals I've had with these guys. And as the years passed, the stories got a little redundant about how Sam busted Jim Taylor's helmet and how he tackled Jim Brown and how Sonny Jurgensen threw the ball behind his back and everything. But just imagine me growing up in Silver Spring, Maryland, sitting there with 2 Hall of Famers who I literally grew up watching play pro football. I was a huge fan, and here I am working with them. I'm with them every single minute I can be with them. And there's knowledge there that you can gain that might not just be a direct comment you're going to make, but just maybe it's a nuance, maybe it's a strategy. Like Sonny would always tell me, rain never bothered him, wind bothered him, because he had a big enough hand to grip that football. But the wind, you can't control the ball in the wind. So he'd much rather have it be rainy than windy, which, it's a windy day. We'll say, hey, Sonny, windy day, you don't like that, do you? So those type of little things that would come up over the course of the job kind of kept building me up, building my, my base of information up. And then, as time has passed, we work with different people, Cooley and Doc, and but Sonny and Sam are the ones I started with, and they're 2 Hall of Famers, 2 of the greatest to ever play the game. So I feel very fortunate to have worked with them when I came on board, and to try to carry on the legacy that Frank started.
Well, we got to wrap up because I know you're tight on time. Larry, it was a true pleasure. Thank you so
Pleasure's mine.
much for being on the show.
Thank you for coming to Redskins Park. Appreciate you stopping by.
Good deal.